right, greetings. Welcome back to Blackbird News, where everything is connected. What is going on, y'all? How you doing? Good to see you. We're here at the usual time of 12 p.m. Pacific. If you are watching the show, please give a like or comment or whatever to help boost whatever algorithm we can help boost. This is one of the most suppressed shows out there. Like, I am heavily suppressed. YouTube is one of the worst offenders. X is also one of the worst offenders, but we are live on those channels. Rumble, pretty good offender of that. And when you think that Rockfin is not a suppressor, they are a suppressor. I often get unsubscribed from channels that I follow. James Corbett, the Grand Theft World channel, AM Wake Up. So I follow these channels to get their content. I'm often unsubscribed from them. So even Rockfin does their part in trying to screw around with like people getting content. And I'm sure I get, people get unsubscribed from my channel as well. So if you are unsubscribed from my channel or not getting notifications, just resubscribe. If you follow me on X, make sure you have the notification bell on. Make sure you get notifications from me. Otherwise, you probably won't see any of my posts. Stuff like that. If you want to chat with other Black Bear News people, you can go to Telegram, t.me/BlackBearNewsChat. Stuff like that. All right. Well, let's get into it. I know I posted the show a little bit late today, but, I'm here at the appointed hour, so don't wait for a notification. If I don't tell you otherwise, I'll be here. Even though sometimes surprise things come up in my schedule, I will be here. All right. What's up, Extra Bola? Malcolm, how you doing? Let's see. What are we getting into? We were talking about, I was talking about the post with the land lawsuits against ranchers. And I don't know. I was trying to dig around for what that lady was talking about yesterday. Again, just because you see a reel somewhere on TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, wherever, just because you see a reel somewhere doesn't mean like everything that they're giving, all the information they're giving you is real. Please always check and double check content if it is not supplied with sources. Even if it is supplied with sources, check the sources. You really have to do your diligence when finding information these days. There's a lot of misinformation. Denver on Rockfin, what's up? All right. So much misinformation. I just saw a video that was like a deep fake of Trump that looked almost convincing, but his voice was the cadence was too, I don't know. The cadence was a little too chipper and, the words were too connected to be him. And the way he was moving his head obviously made it seem like, I was like, oh, that's generated. That's AI generated. But it was almost convincing enough to be, and I'm sure a lot of people ran with that as a real video of Trump saying something, whatever. Malcolm Young says, did not auto start even though YouTube was on. Okay. All right. So I found this, and I think I talked about this last year. Um, and this may be what that woman was alluding to. So there are a bunch of tech entrepreneurs that are trying to start like I guess, for lack of a better word, like a 15-minute city, like a futuristic city in California, um, called California Forever. um, let's see. I'm going to read this article just a little bit. I talked about this last year. Farmers who refuse to sell land to California Forever settle suits against them. So these farmers refused to sell the land to them, and they sued them, um, claiming they were price fixing or colluding to raise the price on the land, which sounds a little dubious. And this is from last year, about 8 months ago. More than a year after the company, backed by a group of influential tech investors, sued dozens of landowners in Solano County. Most have settled this week. So this is last year. And they sued them, I guess, in 2023. Some saw the controversial lawsuit as a land grab attempt by the leaders behind the company, California Forever, and its subsidiary Flannery Associates, to build a new city in the eastern corner of the county. Of the 39 defendants, many of them farmers, 13 settled this week, following another group of 10 who settled earlier this year. So they are settling to end the lawsuit that was brought by these tech investors. The lawsuit, filed in May 2023 in a federal court, came months after anyone knew the name California Forever or the company's ambitious plans to build a new city. It's since become a sore spot for the company as it tries to win over voters who need to approve its plan for a dense, walkable city akin to San Francisco or Oakland. Sounds like. And it's supposed to be, super green and, right, like super walkable, which, on some levels sounds nice. Company spent $9 million to put its initiative called the East Solano Plan on November's ballot, but pulled it just months before the election. Decision that the division at least partly influenced a suit caused in the community, with some calling it a harbinger of the damage the billionaire-backed company could do to the mostly rural county. So they brought this lawsuit against these farmers and rural landowners, and they drain their bank accounts. The suit alleged, let's see, hold on, I'm going to go back here. Ian and Margaret Anderson, two grain and sheep farmers who were outspoken about the lawsuit and its impact on their family's farm, were among the parties who settled this week. So this isn't the same lawsuit that they're talking about, because they're talking about a lawsuit brought by Centers for Biological Diversity and the Western Watershed Project. So this is not the same lawsuit, but something kind of parallel. So she might have been mixing up her cases, maybe not. I just am trying to see. I'm trying to dig into the story a little bit deeper and kind of fact check that video that we watched. Which sounded like she was getting her wires crossed. But probably got a lot of views on the video. So anyways, they settled this week. The Andersons, who were farmers in the region, The suit alleged the Andersons and other landowning families colluded to fix the price of the land after representatives from Flannery Associates approached them to purchase it. The company bought more than 60,000 acres by the end of last year, though their city proposes to only take up 17,500 acres. That's weird. The remaining acres would be used for a solar farm and battery facility, as well as agricultural land and protected open space. Sounds like they have plenty of acres already, including local vernal pools and the Jepson Prairie. In December, the Andersons and other defendants urged the presiding judge, Troy Nunley, to dismiss the case based on their assertion that Flannery Associates had no evidence of collusion between the families. They just didn't want to sell. But in March, Nunley denied that motion and pointed to a series of text messages between the landowners saying they should collectively agree on a sale price. Oh, we are happy to confirm that we have settled the price-fixing litigation with the majority of remaining defendants. I guess they were fixing the price. Although, I don't see what the problem is with that, honestly. Do you guys see a problem with that? I don't see a problem with that. Like, you know, you sell for whatever you want to sell for. Anyways. There was some sort of agreement among defendants to fix the price of land in Solana County. The terms of the settlement were fair to all parties involved, blah, blah, blah. Anyways, they lost the settlement, but I guess kept the land. But they're, you know, now they're all financially in deeper water. Malcolm says, tricky, price fixing is price fixing, but it should not apply to small scale deals. I mean, I think it's different if it's like a corporation. Again, like people can charge whatever they want, but if you have like a, let's say like a monopoly on on a particular product that people need, I think that, obviously price fixing should be illegal and it's unethical, right? But let's say you want to, let's say you're a landowner and you want to hold on to your land and you're just like, well, $1 million an acre, fork it over if that's what that's what I'm selling for. So deal with it. I mean, who cares? What's wrong with that? Anyways, land rich, cash poor. Yeah. You can sell it for whatever you want to sell it for. The problem is you won't have many buyers, right? And so there's that. You could say that there's probably price fixing going on in the housing market right now, where right, all these investment firms, these large corporations are buying up single family homes and buying up properties. It's driving up they're setting like a higher price and driving up the prices of the properties to a point where nobody can afford them. And sure, it's good for people that are, that own their homes, and it's driving up the value of their property. I don't know. It is a tricky one. Okay. Anyways, I just wanted to read you that story. That's an interesting one. If anybody has any like deeper insight into the other supposed lawsuit, or lawfare that's going on with the Center for Biological Diversity and farmers. Please send it along. But I, right now, cannot find anything like that on that, around that, involving that. All right, so we're going to get into some international, global political news. Trump went to Saudi Arabia and pushed out a speech. Well, so there's been some really, some people are calling it just a major shift in the geopolitical stance of the United States, and other people are calling it a crock. There's obviously 35 different takes on every news story. I'm trying to give voice to most of them, or at least give some kind of perspective on what's going on. Let's see. Anyways, Trump has really angered Israel and kind of left Israel out of his trip plans to the Middle East. So here's Luke Rudowski posting this. Trump just nuked neocon ideology, and his approach here is going to shift the global order in a totally new direction. I think this was a direct shot at Bibi. And it is an interesting speech because he does encourage sovereignty among all these nations, or to all these nations, encourages people to develop their own cultures and economies without intervention, without the typical U.S. imperial intervention. So let's listen to this. It's an interesting speech from Trump. I don't know if it really, is it going to really shake up the global order? I don't know. Let's listen.
The transformations have been unbelievably remarkable. Before our eyes, a new generation of leaders is transcending the ancient conflicts of tired divisions of the past and forging a future where the Middle East is defined by commerce, not chaos, where it exports technology, not terrorism, and where people of different nations, religions, and creeds are building cities together, not bombing each other out of existence. We don't want that.
That was very interesting. He said, was that a direct shot at Bibi? It sounds like it.
And it's crucial for the wider world to note this great transformation has not come from Western interventionists or flying people in beautiful planes giving you lectures on how to live and how to govern your own affairs. No, the gleaming marvels of Riyadh and Abu Dhabi were not created by the so-called nation builders, neocons, or liberal nonprofits like those who spent trillions and trillions of dollars failing to develop Kabul, Baghdad, so many other cities. Instead, the birth of a modern Middle East has been brought by the people of the region themselves, the people that are right here, the people that have lived here all their lives, developing your own sovereign countries, pursuing your own unique visions and charting your own destinies in your own way. It's really incredible what you've done. In the end, the so-called nation builders wrecked far more nations than they built, and the interventionists were intervening in complex societies that they did not even understand themselves. They told you how to do it, but they had no idea how to do it themselves. Peace, prosperity, and progress ultimately came not from a radical rejection of your heritage, but rather from embracing your national traditions and embracing that same heritage that you love so dearly.
Yeah, is this Denver says pretty words coming from unpretty, untrustworthy people, which is what one should hold in the back of their mind, I think, when listening to this. Certainly I do. I mean, yeah, it sounds, sounds really great. Um, is it going to be transformative? There is, definitely there has been a shift in Israel-U.S. relations in the last couple of days. Is it going to last? Is it going to lead somewhere truly unique? I don't know. Here's Trump talking about Gaza.
The people of Gaza deserve a much better future, but that will or can not occur as long as their leaders choose to kidnap, torture, and target innocent men, women, and children for political ends. The way those people are treated in Gaza, there's not a place in the world where people are treated so badly. It's horrible. The people.
Okay, that's interesting. He did not mention Israel. He said the leaders kidnap, torture, blah blah blah, innocent people. It sounds like he was talking about the leaders of Gaza, but it sounds like he's talking about what's happening to the people of Gaza. Am I wrong? I don't know. That's interesting. And then one more, and this is, so he's saying that he's going to lift the sanctions against Syria. And everybody's like, yes, oh my God, this is totally new and different. Yeah. So Syria, this would have been different if Assad was still president. Period. Point blank. If Assad were still president and he said, I'm going to lift sanctions, then you could go. But Assad is not. Assad was pushed out. And there's the what's his name? I can't. It's blanking right now. But Jelani, the Al Qaeda guy who was on the most wanted list, who is now leading Syria and who's now being recognized as the leader in Syria, and now he's going to lift sanctions after the former president was, flown to Russia or wherever he went. I don't know if this is like the win everybody thinks it is, because you're basically saying, I'm going to lift sanctions on Syria now that we have, former Al Qaeda operative that we had ties to in control. Like, how is that a win? I don't know. Whatever. I think that's it. Yeah, everybody was like, all right, who boy. How do you take all this? There was also reports that I talked about this. There's reports out there that Trump is about to recognize a Palestinian state. Is that really going to happen? I mean, I remain extremely doubtful, but U.S. soldiers still in Syria? Yeah, creative experiments. Yep. Denver says, in my mind's eye, I see a storyboard written at the WEF to suggest lockstep isn't in place any longer. I suggest the shock. Odd days. Shock, odd day wars, and tensions are all intended to drive world towards technocracy. Yeah. Seems to be the underlying theme or thing that is happening, right? Under all these, these fireworks that the Trump administration is trying to set off as like we're different. And just to throw a little water on this, or clarity, I guess. Seven Seas reposting this. The speech is actually about how they're going to turn Gaza into a 15-minute city with a cashless society. You don't need to bomb people if you have them under technocratic, authoritarian style government. The system will starve them out. Trump chose Steve Witkoff, his real estate buddy since the 1980s, whose son owns World Liberty Financial with Trump's sons, Don Jr. and Eric, to oversee this redevelopment. Anyone who won't comply with this will be shipped to Egypt or Saudi Arabia. Yeah. Yeah. So, you got to take everything that's happening here, everything that he's saying with a huge grain of salt, a massive side eye. And wonder what they're really up to, what they're really on about. If you were English, I'll put it that way. Let's see. Jean on Rockfin. I talked to a realtor about that. She defended the huge inconsistency of the homes going up so high while there were so many for sale. And why wouldn't she? They are making great commissions while they help grabbers eliminate competition. Talking about the home sales. What I think is collusion and price fixing, going on. I think that's far worse than people that have land and want to, keep control of it and or sell it for whatever they can sell it for. I mean, who's really the villain here in that, going back to that lawsuit or lawfare story? You think the villain is the ranchers trying to get maybe a little more money for their land? Or is it the billionaires trying to buy the land and probably trying to get it for as cheap as possible and trying to undercut people, right? They don't want people to know what they're selling for, what they're buying for, trying to keep everybody in the dark. I'm sure the dirty tricks were all the tech billionaires that were involved in the California Forever, and their actions speak for themselves, right? They seem to be tucking tail and running on a public level because people perceive them to be what they are. Which is lying, greedy gaslighters, right? Anyways. All right, let's keep going. Got a few more things to talk about today. The tariffs apparently were slashed, or tariffs are getting cut between China and the U.S. There's a 90-day pause. Supposedly the stock market is flying. But for how long? In a significant development, the United States and China have agreed to a 90-day reduction in tariffs. signaling a temporary truce in their ongoing trade tensions. This agreement, reached during recent talks in Geneva, aims to ease economic pressures and foster continued negotiations between the two nations. On May 12th, the U.S. and China announced a mutual agreement to reduce tariffs for a 90-day period. Under this arrangement, the U.S. will lower tariffs on Chinese imports from 145% to 30%, while China will reduce its tariffs on U.S. goods from 125% to 110%, 125% to 10%. This temporary measure is designed to de-escalate trade tensions and provide a window for further negotiations. The agreement also includes provisions for continued dialogue on economic and trade relations beyond the 90-day period. Both nations have expressed a commitment to establishing mechanisms for ongoing discussions, aiming to address broader issues affecting their bilateral trade relationship. Yeah, so there was a lot of turmoil and probably a lot of people that made money buying and selling stocks through all of this turmoil. And of course, some retailers and producers that were impacted negatively in the last, I don't know how many days, last month or so around this. But if you could ride it out without without too much drama, I guess, or too much turmoil in your own business or your own life, then you most likely is going to calm down. But we'll see. We'll see if they work out a deal. Reduction in tariffs is expected to have a tangible impact on consumer prices. Do you think so? With lower import duties, the cost of goods such as electronics, clothing, and household items may decrease, offering relief. They never decrease. They never decrease. One thing I know about the sellers of goods and services is that once you raise prices, that's a good reason to just keep them where they're at. If the price of oil, price of oil goes up and it forces you to raise prices, well, when it goes down again, that's called profit, baby. That's not, you're not lowering your prices so you can be fair to the consumer. They don't work that way. So the idea that, the prices that went up are going to come back down is absolute. I mean, I would be just gobsmacked if I saw prices go down on anything. Just, oh, well, the tariffs are gone. Well, so we're going to bring the prices down. No, it was a good excuse to raise prices while the getting was good. And tariffs that, go down, well, then that's just profit, baby. That's how that works, in case you weren't clear. Anyways. I mean, maybe some things might go down. Maybe. Very doubtful. While consumers may benefit in the short term, some economists caution that the temporary nature of the agreement means that price stability is not guaranteed. Should negotiations falter, tariffs could be reinstated, potentially leading to renewed price increases. So why would they, anyways, yeah. Is American manufacturing at risk or gaining leverage? The tariff reduction presents a complex scenario for American manufacturers. On one hand, lower tariffs may expose domestic producers to increased competition from imported goods, potentially challenging their market share. I don't know. All of this happened too quick for, I think, things to really, for the most part, people are looking for stability, but we'll see. On the other hand, the temporary truce provides an opportunity for U.S. manufacturers to advocate for favorable terms in future negotiations. Some industry leaders view the 90-day period as a chance to address long-standing issues such as intellectual property rights and market access in China. Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah. Okay, all this is just going to be a bunch of like, well, maybe. Well, I don't know. Malcolm says buying gold is crazy right now. I haven't even checked the prices really lately in the last week or so. Kind of holding steady over the last week from what I can see, or a couple of weeks, 2 weeks. Silver remains kind of in the range that it was in the last couple of weeks. Gold kind of remaining in the range that it was the last couple of weeks. So I don't know. Yeah, there was like 2 weeks ago that took a dip. That might have been the best time to buy, but I think I missed that one. You think gold is going to drop in the market in August, or at the end of August? Creative experiments, maybe. Yeah, I kind of want to wait for a drop myself, but then again, when things just keep on going up, you don't want to not buy any, right? When it keeps on going up. Oh. Do your own analysis, I guess. You can't eat the shiny metals. No, that is really true. Absolutely true, Jolene. All right. If you guys like this channel and like this content coming to you for free, there are lots of ways to support the channel. This channel needs your support. On the daily, the links are all in the description box of whatever platform you're watching on. All the usual suspects are there: Venmo, CashApp, PayPal, Zelle, Buy Me a Coffee, Ko-Fi, Patreon, Substack, etc. There's a link tree on my X profile if you want to contribute there. Many of you contribute to the show already, and many of you contribute on a regular basis. You know who you are. I appreciate you. I do. I'm going to ask you, please, whatever platform you're watching on, please like the video. Please share the video, repost, or whatever it is. Put it out there if you can, if you're of the mind. The algorithms are not my friend. None of these platforms that I'm on are really, doing anything to promote my content and doing a lot to hide my content. So it's helpful if we can get around some of that sometime. Anyways, silver batteries are about to be a thing. Well, yeah, so that could be a good reason to buy up some of them silver coins, silver bars, silver bells. It's not Christmas yet. Sorry. Let's see. A couple more things to talk about. Going back to the Middle East, Netanyahu pledges full force to complete fight against Hamas in the coming days. All while the U.S. envoy, there's a U.S. envoy traveling to Qatar for talks on a possible ceasefire in Gaza. Let's read this. Let's read what's happening. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu on Monday pledged to move against Hamas with full force in coming days to complete the fight against the Iran-backed terror group. Gaslight, gaslight, gaslight. Netanyahu made the remarks about the war in Gaza. I think they're called, aren't they the Israel-backed terror group? Hamas? Yeah, that's true. Ding. Netanyahu made the remarks about the war in Gaza while visiting with Israel Defense Forces reservists. In the coming days, we are going in with full force to complete the operation. Question is, are they using U.S. bombs and weapons? And are they still, using U.S. support? Heck yeah. In the coming days, we are going in with full force. Okay. They're making me read the same thing like 8 times. Etc., etc. It's possible that Hamas will say, time out. We want to release 10 more hostages. Fine, bring them. We'll take them and then we'll go in, the Prime Minister said. But there will not be a situation in which we stop the war. There may be a temporary ceasefire, but we're going all the way. Okay. Winning friends and influencing people, as always. Hamas released American hostage Eden Alexander. We talked about this yesterday. But that was a deal that was worked out with Trump directly, had nothing to do with Israel, apparently. U.S. Special Envoy Adam Bowler and Special Envoy in the Middle East Steve Witkoff met with the families of the hostages for nearly 2 hours in Tel Aviv on Tuesday before traveling to Doha, Qatar to join talks on a possible ceasefire in Gaza. As the war in Gaza drags on, Trump kicked off a 4-day Middle East trip on Tuesday in Saudi Arabia, where he and Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman were expected to hold talks on ending the war in Gaza and more. That's interesting. Holding talks on ending the war in Gaza without the country that's actually there is. It isn't a war in Gaza. It's a bludgeoning. And, that's all very interesting. The wording is very interesting to me. But we shall see. It's more on this. Israel Katz threatens Houthis. Iran with heavy blows as Israel grapples with U.S. truce fallout. It's from a few days ago. The defense minister says country must be able to defend itself without American support. Interesting statement. I saw someone talking about the Israel directly threatened the U.S., but I could not find anything about that in my own searches, but that could be my fault. I could not find anything about the Israel directly threatening the U.S. over what's been going on. But we'll see. They're saying they must be able to defend themselves without American support. That's an interesting statement. Warning Tehran it will get Hamas-Hezbollah treatment unless attacks from Yemen stop. Okay. Israel threatened Yemen. So there is a ceasefire between the U.S. and Yemen that has nothing to do with Israel. Yemen is still intent on disrupting what Israel is doing in Gaza. And they're going to do it. They're going to continue to do it. The U.S.-Yemen ceasefire notwithstanding. Israel threatened Yemen's Houthi rebels with heavy military strikes. Speaking 2 days after the United States announced that it had reached a ceasefire with the Yemeni terror group, Defense Minister Israel Katz called for Israel to be capable of defending itself, even if deprived of American support. As some Israeli officials privately expressed concerns over the ramifications of the U.S. deal, the Houthis will absorb heavy blows from Israel if they continue firing on us. The statement came after Israel carried out 2 days of heavy sorties targeting infrastructure controlled by the Houthis in response to a missile that struck Ben Gurion Airport on Sunday. The fiery reprisals destroyed the international airport in the capital of Sana'a. I think if you guys have seen all those videos, this is a few days ago, so that is not necessarily recent news. But there were quite a few of those vids going around. I mean, here's one that says the U.S.-backed Saudi coalition bombed Sana'a. It's hard to make sense or really know what's happening, but right. I'm seeing there's I'm sorry, that's the wrong day. So I'm looking at the wrong thing. My bad. Give me a sec. Yeah, I don't know if hold on. Well, they were all over X, and I just can't seem to find it. I wonder why. Here's from the BBC. Just looking at this real quick. Israel attacks main airport in Yemen's capital, Sana'a. Said that it had fully disabled Yemen's main airport in the capital, which is controlled by the Houthis. This is last week. Tuesday's strikes targeted 3 civilian planes, departures hall, the runway, and military airbase. Houthis said at least 3 people had been killed and vowed to respond. It comes 2 days after Iran-backed Houthis fired a missile that landed near Israel's main airport, forcing it to close briefly. They did not like that. Netanyahu warned that anyone targeting Israel would be held accountable, and that whoever attacks Israel bears responsibility for his own blood. Whoa. Getting a little creepy there, Netan. Netan keeping it creepy. Let's keep going a little bit. The IDF said it attacked runways, aircraft, and infrastructure at Sana'a Airport. It alleged the Houthis were using the airport to transfer weapons and operatives. How dare you do military things at your airport in your own country? That's a wild idea, isn't it? All right. Meanwhile, on Tuesday, Trump said the U.S. would have stopped attacking the Houthis after the group capitulated. The Houthis just don't want to fight, and we will honor that, and we will stop the bombings, and they have capitulated, he said, speaking alongside Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney in the White House. Yeah, okay, well. Interesting turn of events, even though we don't really know what the long-term repercussions or goal is of all of this. All right, lastly, we're going to talk about this. Putin is wanting to seek a peace deal. And again, because Putin has been interested in a peace deal for several years now. They want it on their own terms, of course, and it's been shot down by Western powers at one time. The Biden administration was just dumping money on Ukraine over and over and over and over again. Don't know whether it's still happening. It's just, might be happening without the headlines, the news headlines, and the fanfare, or maybe it's not happening at all. I don't know. But it seems that Trump has cooled on funding the Ukraine war. Putin proposes direct peace talks with Ukraine to end war. Putin on Sunday proposed direct talks with Ukrainian officials to finally bring an end to the war that began in 2022. He offered few, if any, concessions, but is now proposing talks with Ukraine in the Turkish city of Istanbul, and that he says must be held without preconditions and with the goal of lasting peace. We are proposing that Kiev resume direct negotiations without any preconditions. We offer the Kiev authorities to resume negotiations already on Thursday in Istanbul. The Kremlin chief said talks should address the root causes of the war and that he would speak to Turkish President Tayyip Erdogan later on Sunday about facilitating the negotiations, which he said could result in a ceasefire. Our proposal, as they say, is on the table. The decision is now up to the Ukrainian authorities and their curators, who are guided, it seems, by their personal political ambitions and not by the interests of the people. The proposal was a welcome sign to Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky, who said Kiev was willing to negotiate, but that Moscow must agree to a ceasefire. Trump said hundreds of thousands of lives will be saved if the bloodbath of war could end. So we'll see. Putin's proposal for direct talks came hours after European leaders demanded on Saturday in Kiev that the Russian president agree to an unconditional 30-day ceasefire or face new sanctions. But Putin dismissed attempts by some European powers to issue what he described as ultimatums. The Russian leader said he does not rule out that Moscow and Kiev will agree on some new truces, a new ceasefire during negotiations in Turkey, saying that the talks would be the first step towards a sustainable peace. Russia has proposed several ceasefires, including a moratorium on striking energy facilities, an Easter ceasefire, and most recently the 72-hour truce during the celebrations marking 80 years since victory in World War II. Putin said that during the ceasefire in May, Ukraine attacked Russia with 524 aerial drones, 45 sea drones, and several Western missiles, but Ukraine accused Russia of violating the temporary truces, including the May 8th to 10th ceasefire. Despite Putin's offer of peace talks, Russia launched a drone attack on Kiev and other parts of Ukraine on Sunday, injuring one person and damaging several private homes, Ukrainian officials said. All right. Could it be? Could it be this might be over soon? That would be probably good news for a lot of people, except for the weapons manufacturers. Only they are the, oh man. Oh, dog. We're going to have to start up another war. We're going to have to get something going. We've got some missiles to sell. Get on those phones and get selling. Coffee is for closers. Second place gets a set of steak knives. Etc., etc. Okay. All right, guys. I think that does it for me. Thank you so much. I don't know if I have anybody to thank today or at this moment in the world of donations. But I will be back. Let's see, I'll be back tomorrow at the regular time of 12 p.m. Pacific. I will. I really will. Appreciate you guys watching. Thanks for hanging out. You're the bestest of bears. And you know this. One more time. Never mention the steak knives. One more time. Like the video. Share the videos. Repost the videos. Cut out the videos. Chop out the videos. Put clips up if you want. And all that kind of good stuff. Thanks for being here. Until next time. Peace.